All right, today we're going to look at socialism versus capitalism, two major economic models, which are very, very different. Now, in capitalism, everything is privately owned. It's governed and regulated by our own self-interest, which is where you're going to try to get the lowest price possible. That's why people go crazy for shopping after Black Friday, and it's because they have the best deals. Also, market competition. Businesses have to produce a product that the consumer will pay for. That's why when you look at competition, for example, PlayStation versus Xbox, they're usually equally priced. If one was too much more than the other, they're going to go with the cheaper version because they're comparable products. The opposite end is socialism, and here government and central planning dictate everything. And instead of self-interest and market competition, it's all regulated based on social need. So the government's looking at what people's needs are and trying to accommodate them. The extreme version of this you've probably heard is communism, where there is no private property. And this is the way North Korea is today and the Soviet Union used to be. You would not own your own house, you would just be renting it from the government who own it. So there is no private ownership. Capitalism's big kind of mascot or big thinker would be Adam Smith. And he said the law of supply and demand are basically natural forces, the same as air or gravity. And they work in what's called the invisible hand, where they move the economy along on their own natural force, no interaction from any outside force needed like government. And this invisible hand is going to always push supply and demand to equilibrium. And equilibrium is the point where quantity supplied meets quantity demanded, and the price that they meet at is the perfect price for an item, because the amount you need is equal to what's available. And with the invisible hand, you don't need government, Smith would say. You don't need government. Because in a true capitalist sense, there would be no government needed, but honestly, there is no true capitalist system in the world today. There is always some sort of government involvement in the economy, even in the United States. Now, for example, the United States adopted this laissez-faire policy in the 1920s where we took a very hands-off approach to economics. The government just doesn't really get involved in economics. This resulted in a stock market crash of '29, which started the Great Depression, but some like to go back to this, others disagree with it. But it is simply government takes a very hands-off approach to economics and tries to move more towards true capitalism. Now in this Venn diagram it shows you the main similarity, which is they both deal with answering three basic questions: what to produce, how to produce it, for whom to produce it for. And in capitalism, that's going to be answered by the market or the individual. In socialism, it's going to be done by the government. They're going to answer those questions. Now, two differences as well. Factors of production. Capitalism, it's going to be individuals own all factors, so the labor is private. Capital is provided by private. But in socialism, it's the government. They're two sides of a coin. Economic activity in the capitalist system is regulated by the market and the force of competition, and really just that drive for profit. Profit and competition drive economic activity in capitalism. That's why people start businesses, to make money, to make profit. But in socialism, economic activity gets regulated by the government. So it's not people starting businesses or business decisions being made based on profit. It's based on what's good, what the government sees as what's good. And finally, the level of government involvement is very different. In a capitalism, you have very little to none, so you could say minimum. But in socialism, government has more involvement. In communism, for example, it would be total government involvement, no private decisions. If you've watched this means you are almost done with the semester. And remember, socialism and capitalism is all about the private interest. Socialism is about public need and the government's decisions.